Flying a kite? It was customary to fly kites during the spring equinox in ancient China. It was also a Chinese tradition that the emperor prayed to the sun on this particular day. The Temple of the Sun in Beijing is now a historic site open to the public. While monarchy no longer exists in China, you can still find the type of sweet rice cakes that used to be offered at the sun-worshipping ritual. They're called sun cakes, or 太阳糕 in Chinese, available at some bakeries in Beijing. There is another Beijing dessert for the spring equinox, interestingly called rolling donkey, or 驴打滚 in Chinese, because the vegan cake rolls are covered with soy powder, like playful donkeys with yellow dust all over them. Speaking of food, an old myth in China claims that an egg will stand on end during the spring equinox thanks to the Earth's position relative to the sun. However, modern scientists have discovered that there are no changes in gravity alignment between the sun and the Earth on the spring equinox. Even so, balancing an egg is still a fun thing to do. Many children in China still play this game on the spring equinox, which occurs on or around March 20th. It may be March 19th or March 21st, depending on when the sun returns to the celestial longitude of 0 degree. It's called 春分 in Chinese. The 春 of 春分 refers to spring, and the 分 means half and half, to show the equal length of day and night. The spring equinox is when yin and yang are perfectly balanced, according to a traditional Chinese concept, which states that night belongs to yin and daylight pertains to yang. In case you're not familiar with yin and yang, a Chinese hypothesis states that they're the driving forces of the universe. While yin generates everything cold, dark, wet, passive, and female, yang propels everything warm, bright, dry, active, and male. Based on the yin-yang theory, yang will get stronger and stronger until reaching its apex on the summer solstice, which was defined as the peak of summer in ancient China. Likewise, the spring equinox has been regarded as the midpoint of the season as well. On the traditional Chinese almanac, the spring equinox is the first day of a solar term named after it. The Chinese almanac divides the year into 24 solar terms, which have been recognized by the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization since 2016 as Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity. Each solar term is 15 to 16 days long, and it is divided as 3 parts. The first part of the solar term following the spring equinox is when migrating swallows arrive in northern China. The second part is when thunder starts to appear in northern China. The third part is when rain comes with lightning in northern China. During the solar term following the spring equinox, many flower species start blooming. Ancient Chinese meteorologists picked 3 of them to represent this solar term. The first is crabapple blossoms, which symbolize wealth and status in Chinese culture. That's why some classical Chinese gardens have flower-shaped gates that are called crabapple blossom gates, or 海棠门 in Chinese. The second flower species that comes into bloom after the spring equinox in China is pear blossoms, which are often metaphorized as snowflakes in spring. Another flower species blooming during this time of year is lily magnolia, which is different from the type of magnolia coming into bloom in February. Lily magnolia trees are smaller, so the species can be categorized as a shrub. Most notably, the Chinese name of a lily magnolia is Mulan, which is the namesake of the heroine of a Chinese folk tale that has been adapted into Disney movies. Perhaps Mulan was born during the lily magnolia season, which will extend into the next solar term, to be featured in the next video. Please stay tuned. In the meantime, let's seize the day.